Several sources of renewable energy are present in nature. Solar systems use the solar radiation for electricity or hot water production. Geothermal energy exploits the internal heat within the Earth's crust, in the form of hot water or steam, for electricity generation or district heating. Hydropower produces electricity with the potential and kinetic energy of flowing water. Wind systems uses the kinetic energy of wind for electricity generation. The term biomass refers to plants and wood products, animal waste or urban solid wastes. These are transformed through chemical processes for biofuels and biogas or combustion for heat and electricity. Even the mechanical energy derived from tidal movement, wave motion or ocean current can be exploited for electricity generation. All these sources allow high flexibility and modularity and reduce environmental impacts. Nevertheless, they are affected by an aleatory nature, with a high dependence on weather, season, or daily conditions. In 2013, the global share of total primary energy supply from renewable energy sources was about 13.5%. In this share, biofuels and waste represent the largest renewable energy source. The second largest source is hydroelectric power, followed by geothermal and wind. Since the 90s, the supply from renewable sources has grown with an average annual rate slightly above the one of the global TPS. The growth has been mainly driven by the latest technological improvements in OECD countries for solar photovoltaic and wind power. Hydropower presents one of the slowest growth rates because it has been already exploited since the 70s. Its annual growth rate in non-OECD is more than 4 times higher than OECD countries, especially in some Asiatic and African regions in which the remaining hydro potential resides. The renewable share of TPS in OECD countries increased up to 9% in 2014. Particularly, OECD Europe drove this recent growth. This happened thanks to the implementation of policies that promote renewables and technologies that utilize liquid biofuels. Biofuels and waste represent a higher share in the energy supply of many world regions. Nevertheless, this item includes different mix, depending by region. In OECD, it comprises also liquid biofuels and biogases. Instead, non-OECD countries are the biggest consumers of solid biofuels for residential cooking and heating. Particularly, Africa, which has a minor role in the global TPS, accounts almost 1/3 of the global solid biofuel supply. For this reason, renewables account for almost half of the total energy supply in Africa, but they include non-commercial solid biomass like firewood and charcoal, which is not sustainable on the long term for other socio-economic and environmental reasons. At global level, almost half of renewables is consumed in the residential, commercial and public services sector. This sector includes agriculture, forestry and fishing, and this is a consequence of the widespread solid biomass use in the residential sector of developing countries, just mentioned. Instead, this share is lower in OECD countries, where almost half of renewables are used for electricity and heat generation. Important to note is the growth of the share of renewables in the transportation sectors, due to the promotion and diffusion of biofuels. Renewables represent the third largest contributor to global electricity production after coal and gas, but ahead of nuclear and oil. Hydro represents the principal renewable source for electricity. Since the 90s, electricity generation from renewable grew globally. This growth has been higher in non-OECD countries rather than OECD, due mainly to the huge unexploited potential for hydro available in the former. Renewables' share of TPS will continue to expand in all scenarios proposed by the International Energy Agency. In the current policy scenario, it rises at about 15% in 2040. In the new policy scenario, it increases up to 19%. In the 450 scenario, it reaches 30%. Also, the renewables electricity generation is projected to increase across all scenarios. Particularly in new policy scenario, heat production from renewables slightly grows and the use of biofuels for transport should more than double. The traditional solid biomass share of renewable energy uses is expected to decline in all scenarios. The reason is the expected economic growth and urbanization of developing countries, which would lead to a progressive shift toward more modern energy services. In the new policy scenario, global electricity generation from renewables should rise to 34% in 2040. Hydropower will remain the dominant renewable energy technology for the electricity production. However, the share of wind power for electricity generation is expected to more than quadruple. More than 2/3 of the global increase in renewable electricity generation is expected in non-OECD countries. China alone accounts for more than 1/4, followed by India and Latin America. In order to reach the objectives of the new policy scenario, global investment needed for renewables are huge. Non-OECD countries will invest over 60% of the total, more than half of which in China and India. However, OECD continue to make most of the investment in wind power and solar PV over the next decade. Current China's annual investment is about 45%, as much as that of all OECD countries taken together. The European Union invests the second largest amount per year, followed by USA and India.